What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 100 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, I want to talk to you about Darth Vader, Volume 4, End of Days. This collects issues 20 through 25 of the ongoing Darth Vader series by Kieran Gillen and Salvador Larroca. And this finishes off that series that was set in between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. And this book is okay, but it's not as good as the previous volumes in the series, or at least I didn't enjoy it as much as I did the previous volumes. And I think I know why, and I'm going to sound a little bit like a hypocrite when I explain why. So when I've been reading and reviewing this entire series, I kept saying that I wanted to see them take Darth Vader as he was in A New Hope, and then slowly move him to how he was in The Empire Strikes Back. In A New Hope, he's basically just some guy who works for the Emperor, and nobody really respects him, and he just happens to have a connection to our heroes because he was Obi-Wan Kenobi's apprentice once upon a time. And then in The Empire Strikes Back, suddenly he's commanding a Star Destroyer, and he's force-choking all these admirals who aren't listening to what he has to say, and he's moved up in the world. And I wanted to see this series slowly move him from point A to point B and make it feel organic. And that's what this book does, but it feels very rushed. In volumes 1 and 2, we are very clearly building up to what's going on here, and then volume 3 is this side story that sort of comes out of nowhere, and it doesn't have any build-up in volumes 1 and 2, and also it doesn't really deal with any of the subplots or characters that we were dealing with in volumes 1 and 2. For example, that inspector guy who is inspecting the loss of all that Imperial money, he wasn't in volume 3 at all, except for one page. And then here, spoilers, he shows up for a few pages and then Darth Vader kills him off. And he was kind of a major character in Volume 2, and then suddenly he's not in Volume 3, and then in Volume 4, it's like Kieran Gillen and Salvador Larroca realized, oh wait, this series is ending, we have to kill all of these characters who weren't actually in The Empire Strikes Back. And it almost feels like they were rushing themselves. Like, wait a minute, the series is ending, we have to go ahead and get this series to the status quo that we had in The Empire Strikes Back. And I really think, in retrospect, they should have done away with the Shu-Tehran War that took up Volume 3. And that was a story that I really liked. I really liked getting to see Darth Vader dealing with this planetary politics on this world that is kind of sort of crucial to the Empire, but mostly he is dealing with politics here, and it doesn't really have anything to do with the Empire, but it sort of does. I really liked getting to see all of that, but I don't think that it necessarily fit in this series, especially whenever volumes 1, 2, and 4, they all kind of work together with all these characters backstabbing each other and Darth Vader moving up politically. They all work together with this ongoing thread, and then we don't really have any of that going on in Volume 3. So I think that this volume, it kind of felt rushed when it could have been moving towards what it does at the end a little bit more slowly and a little bit more organically if it had been able to have done that in Volume 3 as well. But as such, even though I liked Volume 3, after I read this, I was thinking that maybe they should have taken all of Volume 3 to move towards this point a little bit more slowly so that we could get to see some of these characters do a little bit more stuff. For example, Dr. Aphra. She's another character who was very important in Volumes 1 and 2. She isn't in Volume 3 at all. And then here, it feels like they're trying to create an ending for her because obviously she's not in The Empire Strikes Back, and I'm going to go ahead and say, kind of a slight spoiler here, it's not the ending that you would necessarily expect, or at least it's not the ending that I expected for her, and I didn't really like the way that they took her character at the end. This was a character that I really liked in Volumes 1 and 2, and for some reason I just wasn't digging her as much in this volume. She is kind of acting in a way that makes a lot of sense in the situation that she's in, but I still didn't really like the way that her character was portrayed, especially near the end of this book. It just felt really weird and out of place, and personally, I would have rather they had just done with her character what you would expect them to do with her character, especially if you've seen the movies and you know that she's not in any of the movies, and if you've read Volume 1 and she tells Vader, I know one day you're going to do this thing, just go ahead and do it this way whenever you do it, and I'm kind of being coy here, but at the same time you probably already know what I'm talking about, but I kind of just wish they had done with her what you would expect them to do with her, and instead they kind of go in a different direction that doesn't really make any sense, and I'm curious if Kieran Gillen is planning on following up on any of that later on in maybe a spin-off series or something like that, not necessarily another Darth Vader series, but I thought this was alright. It's not bad. It's definitely not enough to bring down the whole series. I think that this series is still very worthwhile and very readable. If you're a huge fan of the original Star Wars movies, this is definitely some of the best of the expanded universe stuff, even though it's from a second expanded universe universe. It's not from the original expanded universe, but it's still very good stuff. I still really like what we've got going on here, but this is not quite on par with volumes 1, 2, and even 3. Even though 3 feels a little out of place with the rest of the series, I still think that volume 3 is a very good story, but this, in a way, doesn't quite match up to what those 3 stories did. So those are my thoughts on Darth Vader Volume 4. I hope that you guys liked this video, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back tomorrow with an entirely different video. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.